the software will figure out how to write itself. The code will generate itself. And now we're seeing products and companies make that a reality. So it's pretty awesome to see it come to fruition.
Howard Ting at Cyberhaven, sitting down with us here at RSAC in San Francisco. Grateful for a few minutes of your time, Howard.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So first of all, talk to me about what brings you and the team out here to the conference here at RSAC in San Francisco, and anything in terms of programming that you're most looking forward to.
It's one of the marquee cyber events of the year, obviously, and it's a great place to meet folks, customers, partners, employees, prospective hires. So a lot of good business gets done here. It's an important week to make sure you wear the right shoes.
Absolutely. What are some of the biggest emerging trends in the general cybersecurity space, and how do you feel that you and your team at Cyberhaven are uniquely positioned to address that moment?
Yeah, you're 2 questions in. I was trying to avoid the AI question or answer until a little later, but I have to answer with that. I think AI is obviously revolutionizing so many aspects of the tech ecosystem, and cyber is as much, we're seeing as much disruption from AI as ever. It's not just the offensive capabilities that nation states and others are employing with AI tools to make their attacks more effective, but the defenses are getting better because of it. So our unique application of AI is that we have collected in the history of our company hundreds of billions of flows, how teams and people create and work with data. And that's a very unique data set to be able to train an AI model. So we trained an AI model with this data, and now we can make predictions about how people should handle data. And when we see users deviate from those predictions, we know it's likely anomalous or risky activity, and we can use that to detect incidents that otherwise policies and people cannot. So it's been game changing, and it's only the beginning. I think we're just scratching the surface of what AI can do for us.
Howard, has anything surprised you about the development and the mass rollout of artificial intelligence, and how have any of those surprises maybe adjusted your own course at Cyberhaven?
I think the reasoning movement, I think, came along very, very fast, and the ability for AI to think deeply about a question or a problem before it comes back with the answer. I think the efficacy of that has been pretty surprising, how good that is. And the big step function jumps and improvement in the foundation models, I think that's been, and how quickly that's happening, I think has been pretty surprising. But I think this is something that we have always planned for. Our company has prepared for this moment because we knew that the world was going to be driven off something like this. And I said something, I think, in an interview like this probably like 8-9 years ago, where I said the software will figure out how to write itself. The code will generate itself. And now we're seeing products and companies make that a reality. So it's pretty awesome to see it come to fruition. Sometimes you make these predictions or you try to look ahead and it never happens, or it happens like a decade or 2 later. I think we're seeing with AI, it's happening much sooner than anyone could have envisioned, and it's accelerating the pace of progress.
Howard, I can't help but ask, do you have any current predictions for where you see the space evolving, even in the next 3 to 5 years or so?
I think the biggest prediction I have is that it's just going to be pervasive. Everyone's going to have to embrace it. We see a lot of folks are still getting comfortable with how to embrace it, how to adopt it, what areas they can employ this kind of technology. And I think it's just going to be everywhere. I think it's going to transform not just the corporate lives that we all live, but the consumer lives. My kids are pretty young. They're very far from driving age, and I was talking with my friends like, they'll probably never learn to drive, and they'll probably never learn to type, and there's so many things. The interfaces are going to change, and the ways that we interface with technology is going to change drastically. So I think the biggest prediction is we don't know what's possible yet. I think it's left up to the imagination.
Certainly the only constant over time is change itself. There's no doubt about that. I wonder, are there common mistakes or pitfalls you see customers fall into in the cybersecurity space? And how do you feel you and the team at Cyberhaven are uniquely positioned to address a lot of those mistakes that I'm sure you've seen over your career?
I think the first mistake is always to try to slow it down or keep it at bay. We see this all the time. The first reaction to ChatGPT and Gen AI tools is let's block it, let's try to contain it, let's try to control it. And I don't think this is one of those things that you try to control. Obviously, you want to put good governance and get visibility of what kinds of data is flowing to these tools, what users are doing with these tools. You want to have some visibility of that. But if you're trying to control it, I think you're hurting your company's effectiveness and productivity and competitiveness in the market. It's one of those things where you don't want to control it. You want to observe it. You want to see how people are utilizing it and try to amplify the good and try to control some of the risks. So I think that's the biggest thing the biggest mistake I see is companies are trying to control it and stop it when this is something that you can't stop.
You mentioned good governance. How are you actively balancing the need for good governance with the need for innovation at the same time?
It's a very delicate balance. You know, it's a balance that we've been dealing with in cyber since I got into the business 25 years ago. So I've been coming to RSA conference since 2000. And it was always a trade-off between simplicity and security. You know, the harder you make the user experience, the more secure it was. At least that was the conventional thinking back then. I think what we try to do is we start with visibility. It's like everyone should understand what are the Gen AI tools being used, how is it being used, how are teams using these tools to be more effective at their jobs, what kind of productivity we're getting from it. What kind of data is going to these tools? Are they sanctioned or unsanctioned? So we just start with visibility. We show every organization how are these tools being utilized today. And then we can then figure out what are the appropriate use policies. And we're still in the top of the first inning. You know, we might still be singing the national anthem. I think we're barely just getting started. We're trying to understand how to put the proper governance and controls around these tools.
Not even at the first pitch yet.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're really just getting started, and it's a market where I think the big winners are going to be the ones that have unique data sets that they can train models on, or they're going to be foundation model companies. The foundation models are going to keep getting better and better, and there are many companies that are building a thin layer on top of these foundation models where they're going to be marginalized. They're going to be roadkill because the foundation models are going to get better. They're going to move up market. They're going to get better at cognitive capabilities and reasoning. And a lot of these companies that are here on the show floor in the innovation sandbox or whatnot, they're probably going to cease to exist. You know, I think the only companies with staying power are the big platform companies. We know, you know, they have staying power, obviously, or are newer companies with very unique data sets. That's the only way to survive. And I feel like we're in the latter camp. We're not a big platform company yet. We're still an emerging, fast-growing company. But we have a very unique data set that we can build a model with that no one else has.
Finally, what most excites you about being in that fast lane?
I think it's just solving really difficult problems. You know, I think it's always what's motivated me throughout my career is just working on very hard problems and solving them with a unique approach. And we absolutely are doing that here, and it's been pretty phenomenal to see the uptake and the response to our product and the impact we're having on our customers.
Congratulations on all the success.
Thank you.
Great to have you, Howard Ting, CEO at Cyberhaven. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, JD.